In the SASCAN Life and Tech series, we speak with leaders who have not only witnessed the evolution of the global technology industry, but have helped shape it through decades, companies, and continents. Today's conversation is with someone whose journey mirrors the evolution of the smart and connected devices ecosystem itself. Harish Ramanna brings with him over 30 years of experience, from leading global software teams at Motorola to building and scaling the smart connected devices business at Borgs, and to his new journey here today at Sasken Technologies. His story is that of engineering depth, entrepreneurial courage, and the discipline to stay relevant as technology keeps reinventing itself. Harish, it's a pleasure to have you here at the Sasken Life and Tech series. So, you've had a career spanning almost over 3 decades, I believe now. So, when you started your career, the world was quite different. Networks were really patchy, and you had these bulky phones, right? And the stuff that you work on, connected devices, and all that was not even a concept back then. So, we want to know a little bit about your early career experiences and how did that shape the problems that you later on chose to solve?
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. So, just to give a brief, I'm one of those engineers who have been in this embedded space for quite some time. It's almost more than 4 decades.
Right.
Started with embedded systems and worked in the defense industries before I joined Motorola, which was the first multinational who came to India along with TI.
Okay.
And that's where my journey with cellular industry, or you can call it as a communication systems,
Okay.
along with my background of embedded systems, uh, really led my career path.
Okay.
Probably many of you have not seen, especially this generation, wouldn't have seen the pagers, which was a very small device. It's a one-way paging system. That's how I started my career with it.
Okay.
And then, like I said, the brick phones, which is more of analog phones. That was analog technologies, as opposed to what we call as digital now. It was all analog phones, and the size was big, and we were all playing with the bricks. So that was also transitioning from pagers to a cell phone was a big leap because you are able to talk to the person. Earlier, it was only messaging. Now you are able to communicate in real time to the person, wherever he or she is, right? So that was a big leap. So, and then on, if you trace the technologies, right? So from analog, the brick phones, from analog, we are now calling it as digital AI, ML, and all that. Cellular phones also, or the cellular technologies also transition from analog to digital, right? So that's how the devices started shrinking in size.
Okay.
In Motorola, the first digital device was something which was a flip phone, which was called a StarTAC, StarTAC, right? And Nokia was ahead in terms of the digital device. So we were all the cellular or the 3GPP. We call that 3GPP as the standard body. That also transitioned from analog to digital, and now what we are seeing is a smart device where we have a lot of functionalities embedded in the SoC,
Okay.
in the chipset.
Mm-hmm.
So more and more functionalities are basically put inside the SoC. Now you are also seeing what we call as a TPU or a GPU type of things, which can do teraflops processing, which can do AI type of work. We call it as edge processing, and the shrinking of the size. And gone are the days when we had this analog, which was only CDMA, code division multiple access. Now we have 5G, 6G. It's all based on multiple access technologies, largely from a TDMA world. And that's what we see, a big leap, which is helping, right? We can put the Razor phone from Motorola was a big hit, if you know, right? So,
Yes, yes.
so that actually was a big for Motorola to condense the size. Now you can see fancy flip phones, foldable display, foldable phones, all sort of things, right? So So that's a journey which the mobile phone is taking. Now,
Mhm.
mobile phone is itself transitioning into multiple things, right? You can have a glass and you
Hmm.
can talk to the people. You can have a smartwatch and still talk to the people. You don't really need to carry that device. You can see some things going forward, things will change, but the need to communicate, either be it in audio or video, and with all the social apps, right?
Hmm.
Be it Facebook, be it Twitter, be it anything, and the millennium, right? Who has adopted these social
Hmm.
apps is making the mobile device a unique piece which you had to own, which you had to flaunt, right? So,
Right.
so that's where the mobile devices are going, and you'll see more fancier devices coming in the
Right.
market.
Right. Your passion for the connected devices, it really shows, and that's how your journey has also been very inspiring. But again, I go back to your early career. So when you were working in Motorola, were there any pivotal projects or instances where you it just hit you that you're not just building a product, right? This is going to define the how connectivity is going to be in the future. So if you have any examples, we'd love to know.
It's a very interesting question, which no one had asked me so far. I've done a lot of podcasts and all that,
Okay.
but this question brings me some thoughts. When we transitioned from pagers to mobile devices and all that,
Mhm.
we were also thinking of smart devices,
Okay.
different operating systems, and all that. What we thought is, especially the team in India, Motorola team, we were all software people at that time. We wanted to do platforming.
Okay.
Platforming was not an approach at that time in Motorola,
Okay.
right? So few of us went to Motorola headquarters where the mobile devices were getting designed, manufactured, and all that. We met with people, uh, architects there, and we came up with a platform concept.
Okay.
This platform we had given a name, and that name, one of my old Motorola associate, which I had forgotten long back, and he's in somewhere else. I met him 2 weeks back, and
Oh,
he actually said the name, which I myself had forgotten. So
okay.
this is the platforming concept really paved the way for the Razer phone,
Okay.
right? And then now you see everyone working on a platform, right? Google is also Android
Mm-hmm.
platform, right?
Right.
Below that is a Linux platform. So now everyone talks of, then we have multiple platforms, like Microsoft came up with their own platforms and all those type of
Mm-hmm.
things. So the platforming approach was especially a key point in my career growth,
Okay.
and that's how I was able to build a huge mobile team in Motorola.
Okay. That was a very pivotal moment where you realize, okay, there's something else that's happening.
That was one pivotal moment, and then when we started doing it, the other pivotal moment, in fact, last week, some of my colleagues
Mm-hmm.
celebrated. We wanted to do a India only phone.
Okay.
We were doing phones for the entire market,
Mm-hmm.
but we never had that what's that opportunity to do everything in India, designed, developed in India. There was a
Hmm.
one phone called Jade, and a
Oh.
lot of people celebrated 25th year anniversary of that phone,
Mm-hmm.
which was launched 25 years back, which was designed, developed, conceived, designed, developed in India,
Okay.
right? So that was yet another pivotal moment.
Okay.
That's how my journey started thinking, not just to the software, we've been doing it. We want to get into a complete product, right? So
Oh,
we
okay.
were, so Motorola gave me an opportunity to develop products, and then it could be a software products and then the hardware products.
Mm-hmm.
One of the product, a very pivotal moment was based on the platform. We created what's called as a Motorola browser,
Oh,
or
okay.
if you know MMS, Motorola
Yes.
MMS,
Yes.
multimedia messaging system. These two solutions was entirely crafted, and my idea of product is we were actually put in competition with so many third party vendors.
Okay.
Motorola was so good in engaging third party guys, and they were integrating only third party browsers or
Mm.
multimedia messaging systems. We had to come up with our own homegrown and compete with them and be able to launch in the market with
Right.
across all mobile devices.
Okay.
So I was almost called as a browser man, right? So now it's all Chrome and other things. For the smart devices, I mean, for those devices, it was not smartphones
Mm-hmm.
still. So
Yes,
we
yes.
had our own Motorola browser. So these 3 or 4 examples made me what I am today,
Mm.
right? Yeah.
That's really nice to know. I mean, these are important things that mark your career. So you spent a large amount of time leading, huge global teams, software teams, and working with such a large variety of people across geographies. So, what did this experience of leading cross geography teams teach you about accountability and execution, and basically leading people and getting the best out of them?
So one thing was very clear. I had teams across Europe, China, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We all culturally so different,
Yes.
right? So we had to respect their cultures big time. So from an engineer point of view, 2 things which I say: when it's culture, it's important to have the senior management in that specific locations.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no point in trying to manage those people from a remote location. The first thing which I did was to have the center heads who are accountable
Mm-hmm.
for people revenue, and largely what the respect which people will show it to you, mind you, they can do their job, they can execute, people will be able to do execute, center head will be able to do execute,
Mm.
but you bring customers, you
Mm.
bring in customers, you bring in market to them,
Mm.
they will start loving it.
Yes.
If you're purely operational in reason, in
Mm.
your thought process, not like, let the operation be handled by them, and then they report to you on the metrics,
Yeah.
but don't beat them on the metrics, they will improve, but you give them additional business, additional revenue, or give them new roadmap to work on.
Mm-hmm.
This is one fundamental thing which worldwide all engineers will like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are having multiple centers, don't grow one center at the cost of others.
Yes.
Leverage the strength of that center and try to put the relevant work to that center,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because market is also driven by various geographies, each geography has got potential and we can grow. So that it's very important to recognize that and grow each of these businesses
Mm-hmm.
independent of each other.
Right.
You start making a lot of cross pollination. It works to a certain degree, especially at the platform level, but try to make each of them as independent and accountable for their work.
Okay. So at the end of the day, people, want to speak for themselves and want to show that this is what I've done.
What
So
I've done, right? So including initiatives. Let the
right.
initiative of India need not be the same thing as in China. China
Yes.
will have so much of initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
You help them, you invest in that initiatives,
Right.
right? That's what we do.
So I'd like to ask something else on this. I mean, the thing is, currently people are working from home, right? That's going remote. Going remote is the new thing. But then when you say you bring people together and bring a center head, so I mean, somewhere maybe there might be a disconnect, and at least I've heard people saying, okay, I can work from anywhere. Why do I have to shift to that country or this specific office location? So I mean, what would you like to add, that how does remote working is there anything that you'd like to add in this?
I want to be equally controversial there.
Okay.
Who says people are working from home? Right? For me, everyone is working from office. I never, even at the peak COVID times, that's the only time I allowed people to work from
Okay.
home. All my engineers, even at Box, I've got 95 to 98%
Mhm.
attendance every day.
Okay.
That's the culture which I'm bringing in Sasken as well now. The only place where we work together. How do I engage with an engineer and say, I want to work on this initiative?
Mm.
I want to work this initiative with yet another person. You jointly work together and come up with a solution. Worldwide, gone is the concept of work from home, right? Everyone, every CEO, if you look at it, they see productivity increase a lot when you come and work together. What we are working is working as a team. Individual can contributions can happen only in the CTO office where they want to write papers and do it. When you're trying to do a platforming work, and you're trying to work a platform, is a combination of multiple APIs getting together, working in synergy, working in cohesion to come up with a magic. That thing can only happen when there is a team, right? So the team can work very effectively when they're together. At times, there are cases when some people has to be there that we can do, but largely, I am a super believer of working from office.
I guess collaboration is much easier at office. So during the time when you were leading these teams and working across geographies, when was the moment, or was there any significant moment when you realized I want to move on from being an enterprise leader to being an entrepreneur now?
Absolutely right. So in the last few years of Motorola, I was heading the global Asia Pacific software centers. Right, I wanted to do a product on my own.
Okay.
So there was a lot of openings. We could see a lot of VCs also trying to basically support the startups. So before I left 2 years, I was thinking I should do something on my own.
Okay.
And I met few VCs who are more than happy to work with me and fund it. This is before even Android came into picture.
Okay. Oh, it was a long time ago.
Because like I told you, right? Android, this is platform. I said, platform, we did it for Motorola. Can I do a platform on my own and do a complete product? Right? And we wanted to do something for India. I told you, right? So I said, okay, let me try and do that. And at that time, me and my colleagues, few of us were very seriously thinking about it. Organizations change as we grow. Like a Motorola organization also changed. That gave me a exit path, right? And then I got investment as well. So myself and my few colleagues, I told you that we were working with Motorola China also. So a few colleagues of mine from China and India, we combined together. We had a ready investor, right, who invested in us, and we had a customer also. They wanted to do something before even Android was open sourced. We worked with them to create this company, and Box was created. We had CMCC as our customer, which is the largest Chinese operator.
Okay.
And we created an operating system based on Android for them.
Okay.
Right. So that's how the Box journey started.
Okay.
Right. So we started our enterprise in China, and then 3 months down the line, I set up an office in India as well. India office started serving the US customers.
Okay.
So China started supporting the Chinese customers.
Okay. So you were based in China, or you were just traveling for
traveling, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
I was always in India. I mean, like I said, Motorola made colleagues come together,
Yes, yes,
and we
yes.
created this. Market was there, colleagues were there, India engineering was there, so we combined together.
So around which year was this? You said it was before even Android came in.
That's a good question. Now, time has elapsed so much. I would say this is 2006-7.
Okay, very long time. So moving from a structured multinational like Motorola to entrepreneurship, that's a culture shock in itself, right? I would like to know a little bit more about any initial instances where you thought where you thought that okay, I've jumped into something very new and it's overwhelming right now?
Didn't see as overwhelming, but initially I would say, right? So as a startup, we never had any of this, what do you call that? Any of the staff or anything like that. I was able to get some very good engineers, especially my staff who are in Motorola. They all came and joined me.
Okay.
So there are people who have joined me from the last, they're with me from the last 30, 35 years now, right? But then startup was crazy in India. So going through the various documentation process, even making sure that your table is tidy, cleaning the rooms, everything, we did all that,
Okay.
including brooming. I had done it in our initial stages.
Mm.
We took a small office space, right, in a co-working space, right, and then that's how we started. But everything went to, all the other hardships was not, what do you call that, this was taken on the stride because we started getting revenue and we got customers.
Okay.
So important thing was building a right team immediately, right? Eh, don't worry about cost and all that. Build a senior team who can talk to the customers and start delivering it and start getting the revenue. All other things will pass.
Yes.
Right? So that was my motto. My always motto is, even people think, get business, engineers will love it. And then you need to be, when you're talking business, you should also be technical in nature, right? You cannot just, it's not a sales guy. So you should have that sort of a confidence when you're talking to the customers. And that's how the whole equation, gels well.
Right. So, how did your deep Android and chipset experience help Borgs carve out a differentiated position in the smart connected devices industry?
Very good question. We started all our development on Marvell chipsets.
Okay.
Right, and then from Marvell we moved to Marvell. We launched a lot of devices as a system integrator and software service provider. Hardware was done by some Chinese CMS.
Okay.
And like I said, it was for China market and for the North American market. After Marvell, we had a very big Intel presence.
Okay.
Intel came to us and said, we want to have a very big team. We had almost 300 people. The first Intel, along with Intel, we developed the Intel platform. We helped launch Intel smartphone devices in Orange in Europe and with Lava in India. Right? So very big program. It was going great till Intel decided to shut down the mobile business. They were not able to do it. Then we worked with Renesas, the Japan company.
Okay.
Right, so we helped again build a complete Renesas platform. I used to travel to Japan so many times, and then we got that. And then when we are doing all this, Qualcomm came to know that we are supporting so many platforms, chipset vendors, but they're not associated with us. Few guys, including the current site manager of Qualcomm and some of the development guys, because we were in the industry, we were participating in the standards. There was something called OMA standards. We were very actively working on those standard bodies as well. People came to know that we need that in Qualcomm platform. They came to us along with people from Hyderabad.
Okay.
Right, when he came from Hyderabad to me, then only we know that we were ex-colleagues in Motorola as well.
Okay.
So it's like a small. They said, you are doing it for everyone. I want to have a plan where you create an ODC. The first thing is, immediately they said, I want you to create an ODC, right, in Bangalore.
Okay.
Can you give me a roadmap for 100 people? That's how the discussion started.
Okay.
So we grew Qualcomm from there. This was about 13 years back.
Oh.
So Qualcomm has now become a very big partner for us across mobile, IoT, smartware, automotive, across. So we have a huge presence working with Qualcomm. over a few years when we were working with Qualcomm, right from the lower layer right up to the top layer, uh, someone in San Diego and Qualcomm said, "You're doing everything except you're not doing a complete phone.
Uh,
You're not doing the hardware. Why don't you take it?" Just as it was more of casual
hmm.
conversation, which made us think in our strategy session, and we bought a company.
Oh.
Right, we bought a company which was doing mobile devices. That's how our ODM strategy started.
Hmm.
This was about 9 years back.
Okay.
Right, from then on, we have shipped more than 40 million devices across the continents.
Okay.
So our ODM strategy started. So with Qualcomm, we are their customers and they are our customers.
Yeah.
Right, so it works both ways, and we continue to work with Qualcomm. So Qualcomm brings us the customers. Right,
Okay.
we have very less, at least in Box, we have less marketing sales guys. Largely
Hmm.
marketing sales guys, largely driven by me.
Okay.
Right, so because of the previous connects, now we expanded the sales, marketing, and all that to
Okay.
take it further.
So when Box started, and Box was a young company, so as always, technology is always shifting, and there are things that you and your core team might have dreamed of, but it would be very impossible to do it alone. So are and then that is when strategic partnerships come into play, right? So we'd like to know some examples of such projects which would have been impossible for you to do it alone, but through a partnership, you made something happen that has a significant that has major significance in today's connected devices ecosystem.
Sure. So when we are launching devices, now the devices, like it's getting so complicated,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when we are launching it in Japan, North America market, we had to work with partners
Mm.
to do the certifications.
Okay.
We are not able to do certification alone. So we built lot of partnership with to help us doing the certifications.
Okay.
Second, some of the vendors have worked with the carriers directly on some niche software pieces,
Mhm.
be it device management, right? So, be it OTA upgrades and all that. So initially, you can't say that I will do everything.
Mm.
Though given a time, we could do everything. But these are specific requirements, specific modules developed for that particular carrier. So we tied up with those carriers as well.
Mm.
Since we are doing a complete hardware, our ecosystem partners also has to be built very strongly
Okay.
for the component selection and as well as our basically
Yes.
supply
Yes.
chain
Yes.
and then the factories.
Okay.
So we develop partnership with multiple EMS, right,
Okay.
in Taiwan and in China.
Okay.
So we were able to get some of those things, and because of that partnership, we were able to supply millions of devices to Geo. Right,
Mm-hmm.
Geo feature phone, Geo smartphone. The first smartphone of Geo, first
Oh.
feature phone of Geo was entirely designed,
Okay.
developed entirely by us.
Okay.
Right, so that's what it is. So, and then we had to. That's all based on the partnership, ecosystem partnership, and the trust Geo had with us.
Okay. So you had some experience working with very big names in the industry, and that really adds to the brand trust. And I believe it's also because you built a trust with them, right? Borgs had a brand value that had gained all of
Yeah, it's
this.
very important to have that trust, and the trust comes from very things, right? So
Hmm.
one is important in terms of your commitment to the customer,
Right.
be it in and be transparent.
Hmm.
Transparency and openness is one thing which I totally advocate to everyone.
Hmm.
I am a sort of an open person. Sometimes it hurts, but in the long run, it definitely helps. Right?
Right.
Open, transparent, and technological excellence. I would say
Hmm.
excellence or capabilities you show. Right? That is very
Hmm.
must,
Okay.
very much needed rather.
Right. So as technologies keep on evolving, Borgs needs to be agile, or rather now SAS, it needs to be agile. So, but that comes from the people, right? People and their work ethic. So when you are building teams and you're hiring, what is it? What are the non-negotiables other than technical expertise that you look for in people to help them to so that they can be a part of Borgs's journey?
So one thing which I always thinks is in my first town hall also here in Saskin when we got merged, always want all our engineers think that someday they will start their own company,
Okay.
right? I want to them that each one of them are of your entrepreneurs. Each one of you can create something of your own. It needs a little bit of mindset because India is known for providing pure software services.
Hmm.
The culture has to change. I would say not everyone can change. If someone gives the requirements, I will implement it. There are certain people we need that.
Mhm.
But for us to grow and to do 60 by 4 by 3, which is our
Correct.
mission, we need to invent something. We need to actually develop IP blocks. We need to do some products, be it software, hardware.
Mhm.
We want to have multiplication factor for our revenues.
Right.
That cannot happen with pure T&M model with the services things. We need to change the overall concept of the business model as well. So what I tell all my engineers is bring me some ideas, right? And when you bring in ideas, I also want to you guys to validate. Don't come to me to validate and tell you this has got a business case idea, and you come with a business case as well. Then we'll be more than happy to do it. So people had to scale up a little bit. It takes time, but we need to do that. That's the only way people will learn.
Right. So you're looking for independent thinkers and innovators, essentially. That's
Absolutely. And
right.
then they can work with their colleague to come up with things. So many instances where I've seen collaboration, and then they come up with some ideas,
Yeah.
and then we build that product.
Yeah, that organic development and innovation, that's very. I think it also adds to employee satisfaction.
They will see
That's a
that this is
win-win.
my product, right? This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what I created, right? So that's what.
That's a win-win. So now we'll talk about the acquisition, which is a very significant and new chapter in Box's journey. So from your perspective, what is that USP that Box brings with it that will help both the companies grow together now and achieve greater heights?
So Box comes with a great amount of product engineering capabilities.
Right.
I'm not saying Sasken has it. Sasken has also got this, but we have launched multiple products across multiple areas. Doing is what makes sense, right? So we have seen what customer wants it, the end customer wants it, because we don't have a layer in between the customer because we are directly interfacing with the customer. Our customers are seeing and feeling the products, right? Many of times, though we may be working with someone, but we are talking to the end customer who feels good or who feels bad. The pain he feels get translated to Box directly. So we have built a team which has got good amount of product engineering capabilities, and with Sasken's strength of like a larger base, good amount of software engineers, we can merge these two capabilities and create a bigger company, a greater company, which we have seen when Rajiv and I we went to each of the customers, both customers, they felt very good, right? Because now, Sasken, you are coming with a company which has got great product engineering stuff. They have created products, they have launched products. It's very good because now you know what we are asking for. Harish, you tying up with Sasken is good because you were always a small company. You were not able to scale up, neither in terms of resources and pure staff, nor in terms of we give, like, we trying to give you a millions of dollars orders, but your bank balance is so low, right?
Mhm.
So that also, right?
Right.
When they see a bigger, larger company,
Yeah.
they feel secure,
Right. Right.
right? And most importantly, now Sasken is headquartered in India.
Right.
This is a very big plus factor for many customers,
Mhm.
knowing the geopolitical nature which we are facing in the
Mhm.
world.
Right. So essentially, this now means bigger orders and bigger, you know, dreaming of bigger
We need to
projects.
do. We need to dream big.
Yeah.
We need to really dream big and go for the bigger orders,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Just trying to do it. The new order which we just opened a very big center now, which
Okay.
is in context with this. This new business which we just got signed up 3 months back wouldn't have got if these forces had not combined.
Right.
The
Right.
proof of the pudding is already there.
Yeah. That's amazing. So whenever there is a integration of two companies, there is also one of the biggest things is cultural integration, right? So works as this entrepreneurial agile spirit, and how do you as a leader combine it with Sasken's legacy, and how do you see the blend of the culture going forward?
So I wouldn't say Sasken doesn't have the agility. It's we had to tune it if it's not there, but that can be done.
Mm.
Very like what I've talked to various engineering managers and all those type of things. People appreciate what they have learned very fast
Mm.
how Box does the business, and there is a sense that we can also do this. If this can be done, like the Box
Mhm.
way or whatever, right? So with more agility, which will turn into a greater revenue, we should do that, right?
Mhm.
So we should try and do more of fixed cost programs. We need to do more of products. All that I can see in our meetings, those things are coming up,
Mhm.
right? So because Box also has got two arms. One is the services arm and one is the ODM arm,
Mhm.
and it's actually they work together very well.
Mhm.
So in the services arm, we are now trying to put the services, some part of the services arm here with this new program.
Okay.
So culturally, I think it's getting there. And there are a lot of people from Sasken now working with Box because I told you, right? Box was resource constrained. You had resources.
Mm.
Now all the people who I mean, like whoever you call quote unquote bench who is good, they're all now absorbed in Box.
Okay.
So we reduce the bench strength as well.
Okay.
So now we together we will conquer. That's our motto.
Yeah, of course. So now we would like to know a little bit more about you as a leader. So you've played multiple roles like mentor, leader, board member, and all. So I'd like to know, like, have you ever had any professional setback that became a defining leadership moment for you?
Hmm. Very good question. I have to really think. So far, God's grace, it's not leadership. I've not heard any setbacks so far,
Okay.
right? So, uh, not in terms of my what I want to do, right? Those type of things I've not got any setback. Operationally, from terms of the delivery, some things may go wrong, some things may go right. Largely, even my I keep telling the investments which I do for any product development or what I put my fingers on, this is what I do. I've got more than 80% success rate so far.
Okay.
Yes, there are like some of them projects may not take off at all, right? So
Mm.
that's the only sad part. But I guess that's where investment we call it as there is a risk in
Mm.
investments. But from a leadership perspective, I've not seen anything so
Okay.
which pulls me down. I would say, right?
Okay.
So got feedback saying that sometimes I could be harsh, right? So, but that's like when I've got a motive set, right, I go for it,
Okay.
right? So all that I'm so customer focused, customer driven. All this for me doesn't
Okay.
bother me at all. So, but
So
generally people say when they are so customer focused, people say, okay, we'll go with it.
right.
Right?
So you have the eye on the end goal. You don't sweat the small stuff.
No, no, definitely
Yeah.
not.
So when you are mentoring young engineers and founders, you know, probably you'd hear some very common questions that most of them probably have. So what are some of these, maybe one or two of these common things that you hear, and what do you usually advise?
So one of the things, I mean, I'm like you said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm on the board of many startups as well. One of the thing is sometimes great idea will actually doesn't go well if you don't have a great CEO at the helm,
Okay.
right? So the guys who actually innovate or come up with these ideas or come up with a startup, they think that they are the CEO material, but they are not, right? So this idea is to identify that in the beginning and make way for getting a good CEO. Many companies have seen this as a problem, right? Ideas doesn't get executed. Even if it's get executed, they don't know how to take it to
Okay.
the next level. Neither there is no CEO, there's no good marketing. They feel that they can do marketing, they can do CEO,
Okay.
everything put together because it's their idea, their startup. They're not letting it go. Right? So that's one thing which I've seen across multiple startups as well.
I
So
believe
it's very
this connects to the common saying is, you need to always hire people who are smarter than you, so that they can take your dream.
don't get yeah, yeah, they're not taking away your job,
Yeah.
right? So very much so, right? So,
So we are coming towards the end of the episode now, but before we close, I have some rapid fire questions for you, some fun questions.
good.
So you can just answer whatever comes to your mind first, and
Sure.
that's fine. So one mobile device that you were genuinely excited to own,
Now today,
any point of time,
any
wherever.
Android device which has got a great multimedia capabilities.
Okay. So Android or iOS?
Android.
Always. Your first ritual on a very important high stakes date.
Pray God.
Okay. So
I do pray every day, but high ritual day I pray God more and then get my wife to bless me as well.
no risks taken. Everything is, like I don't want to leave anything
No, I
open.
take risk in my business,
Okay.
but generally I pray for success.
So what is your preference, coffee or chai during an innovation sprint?
Coffee.
Coffee. A tech visionary you would love to have a conversation with.
Tech visionary. Like you're talking of a global visionary?
Yeah,
Anyone for
anyone,
that matter?
anybody. Any tech person, very whoever, celebrity or whoever you think.
Probably Elon Musk.
Oh, okay. Nice. One non-tech hobby that helps you reset.
Oh, good question. Non-tech, so no, pass.
Oh, okay. One word your team would use to describe your leadership style.
Dynamic.
Oh, lovely. So now we've come to the close of the rapid fire section is also, and also the close of the podcast. So one last question: if you could talk to the Harish when you started your career, what is the one advice you'd give him?
When I started my career, I could have been much more diligent, much more, what do you call that, innovative. I took things lightly at the very beginning of my career.
Okay. So, I mean, you've more than made up for it along the way, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The initial part was
Hmm.
like, it was tough for me, right? So, yeah, but then I made up.
Right. So thank you so much for joining us here today, and we really hope to have you more on future episodes.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
You
so much.
spent a lot of time thank you for all the setup and then asking me all the questions.
Oh, it was
Some of the
lovely.
questions were, like I said, no one even had asked me. Thank you.
It was lovely to know, and your journey is especially inspiring. So, at the Saskin Life and Tech series, we, have conversations with leaders who, like you, have not just innovated, right, but have also the developed, shaped the technology industry through their decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good.
Thank you.